everyone, to Christiana's Psychic Cafe. I'm so glad you're here. We have a great show for you today. In just a moment, I'm going to bring on my live guest. Not that I've had dead guests in the past, but not a pre-recorded guest, a guest live and interactive with us tonight. We have Jeanne Fiorini of Tarot Works, and I am so excited to have her. So, without further ado, let's bring her right on. Jeanne, how are you today?
I'm good. Coming from Maine tonight.
How is the weather in Maine right now?
Well, today was gorgeous, but, it's been very sporadic. Like 90 and then 50 and then rain and then sunny. So we've been getting everything. But today was gorgeous. Perfect, actually.
Now, you're in the Portland area, is that right?
Yep, coastal Maine, what do they call it, vacation land, and we're really moving into tourist season now, so it's a whole different thing, Maine, in the summer than it is in the winter.
And just since we're talking about it, do you do a lot of that tourist work? I know some readers are very tourist-oriented. Do you do that?
No, not really. I used to be connected with a local hotel and was in their, guest booklet for fun things to do when you're in Portland. So sometimes I'll get a referral like that, but not too much. Pretty much what I do is referrals, my regular clients, classes, groups, things like that.
Perfect. And we're going to talk about all of that tonight. But let's start. I've started this new thing in the past month or so where I start every show with the card of the week that I draw at random live on the show. So I thought it would be fun if you and I could do this together.
Okay.
So I'm going to draw a card at random, and I'll let you go first and tell me what you think about this card, what it means to you, what it might mean for all the people who are watching right now, and then I'll throw my 2 cents in after. Does that sound okay?
Sounds great.
Okay, I am shuffling. Oh,
you got a leaper.
Yeah, what fun. The card of the week, Temperance.
Okay, ride the wave. Try not to let things bother you. Just take things as they come. Depending on what kind of, life and work people have, that would really support the notion of not sticking too much to a schedule, but just kind of letting yourself move with, like my mom says, as the spirit moves you. Nice. Maybe I won't get dressed until 10 o'clock, but I'll be doing other things, Also, that's a card about healing. I think of it as a healing card. So, taking extra care to really tune into your body, make sure that you're really listening to what wants to happen. I always, am struck with that card about how it's this nice, gentle, peaceful card. And on one side of her is the death card and the other side's the devil card. So, she's got a lot of power. There's a lot of power in being patient and in just allowing things to be whatever they need and want to be. So I would say, take the path of least resistance this week and zero in on what your body needs. And if you can, follow that agenda rather than the external agenda.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That is a great way to look at this card. I'll add to it. I like to call Temperance the cosmic bartender. The idea that, nothing in life is perfect. But if you take a little of this and a little of that and you blend it together with patience and with caution, you can find the perfect blend.
That's great. The cosmic bartender.
Cosmic bartender.
Leave it to you.
So, Jeanne, you and I have had the opportunity to speak before in the past, although we've not yet met in person. And one thing I really enjoy about you is that we have this thing in common where we are both pretty sane, grounded, full-time tarot readers, you know, and there are people who would say, well, sane and grounded doesn't go with tarot readers at all.
Right.
But I think we're both examples of that in my opinion, don't you think?
Yeah. Well, it seems like you are. I know that people say that about me, you know, and I don't always feel grounded, but I think that part of that is a little bit of the misconception about what a tarot reader is supposed to be. And people expect you to be flaky and a little bit, you know, spaced out, or maybe show up late or not pay attention to details or whatever it is. But it is my kind of perspective on tarot that it needs to be useful, you know. A whole lot of hot air and a whole lot of big fancy words might be very impressive, but if it doesn't help out a person, it's not really worth the air spent on it. So, you know, I really do try to be practical and give somebody something that they can hang their hat on. Like I like that expression, something you can hang your hat on.
Nice, nice. I really love that. So I know you've got some very exciting stuff going on that we're going to promote in just a few moments, but you know, given that we have this opportunity to chat, I want to ask you this first. I have a number of questions I want to ask you.
Great.
I've not prepared you for at all.
Okay, great.
So, here's the first one. I think for most of us who have made a career in tarot, that tends to be fairly accidental. You don't normally meet children when you say, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a tarot reader. That doesn't happen a whole lot. Mm-hmm. So, when you were a little girl, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, I wanted to be an actress. I did. I'll admit it. Yeah, I did. I wanted to be an actress. I wanted to be on TV and in movies, and yeah, I don't know, you know, and I think in some ways this comedy thing that I'm into now, which I know you're going to be talking about, is it's surprisingly connected to tarot in the mechanics of it, and we can talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, I you know, I grew up in the 50s, and even though there are people my age who are career oriented, I really just never was. I never really, I don't know what I was thinking, but I wasn't thinking about, you know, becoming a doctor or, you know, I don't know, having a business. A lot of the things that I've learned, you know, about running a business and all sorts of things have really been forced upon me. They weren't things, like you said, that I chose. So that's an interesting question. Nobody ever asked me that before. What did you want to be?
I went to college for theater. I also wanted to be an actress. How funny is that? But there were 4 career goals I had as a young person. One was theater. The other was parapsychologist. There was a TV show on when I was little called The Sixth Sense, long before the Bruce Willis movie. And I saw that, and, you know, it was an hour-long crime drama thing where all of the crime that needed to be solved had some kind of otherworldly facet to it. So I decided that's what I wanted to do. Later on, I said, well, I'll just be a psychologist. Then I wanted to be a minister. Then I wanted to be an actress. So if you think about it, all of those things did kind of come together in a way.
Yeah, you know, for me, the link that really directly got me started on tarot was in college, having to decide on a major, and I thought about psychology, but I really was kind of lazy and didn't want to do all the medical. So I became an art history major, and that's where I got interested in symbols and Carl Jung, and you know, there's the overlap of psychology in art history, and in that how it reflects the zeitgeist of the times. You know, it's just like a solidification of what was going on in culture. Any piece of art that comes from any, you know,
right,
period in history just reflects that. And I really thought that that was interesting, although I didn't have any thoughts about, well, how do you make money, you know, with that interesting but not very useful information.
But if we think about it now, like I would look at this and I would say, well, the universe must have had a hand in directing you there, because given your career now, I would say a degree in art history is very appropriate.
Yeah, yeah, it's the power of the picture.
Yeah.
To convey information that I found interesting then and I still find interesting. And even after reading cards for over 20 years now, which is shocking to me, I still see things in the cards that I didn't ever see before. Clients still present ways of looking at a card that I didn't think of, or it didn't hit me that way. And so it's, it's still a learning process, which I find so valuable. Each client comes in with a different story, and hopefully we both learn something. So it's very satisfying.
That is one of my favorite things about it. I bore so easily, and the thing that terrifies me more than anything, the one thing I'm afraid of in life is boredom. And tarot is never boring.
Yeah, that's true.
There's always more. And you've been reading for a little longer than I have. But even in that, there's, as you say, there are things that pop out of the cards that you've never seen before. There's always more to learn. Now, what decks do you work with?
Mostly Rider-Waite-Smith and the Mythic Tarot, and I like Golden Tarot also, Cat Black's Golden Tarot.
That is a special deck.
It really is. I don't use it for everybody. It's got to be just the right client to be able to appreciate the images, and all, because it does have a kind of a, I don't know, it has a different vibe to it. But I'm on probably my 4th Mythic Tarot deck. They've worn out. In a period of disgust one time, I threw a deck of cards into the woods. I just got, it can be hard. And I just pulled off I was coming back from an event and I wasn't very busy, and I just threw a little temper tantrum at the universe and I just chucked them right into the woods. Wow. Yeah, and later I thought, I wonder who's going to wander around and find tarot cards in the woods and say, what happened here? What happened here?
Well, that was one of the things that set me on my tarot path, was I found a tarot card on the street.
Oh, is that right? Huh?
Yeah, so you may, universe may have positioned you in order to set someone else on their path. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Or they turned into compost under the leaves. I don't know. What card did you find? Do you remember?
I don't. And it was like the 8 of Pentacles or something like that. It was not like a really mammoth card like Temperance here tonight. It was just a card. But it was, and I was so resistant. I am sort of this very practical, scientific person, although very spiritual. As I said, I wanted to be a minister at one point. But again, very practical. And the idea that 78 pieces of cardboard drawn at random could bear any significance was ridiculous to me. And yet, tarot just tracked me down and made me study it, and then it wasn't ridiculous anymore.
Even though I did very well with math, not so well in science, but really did well in math, and went to college as a math major, I was, I don't know what I was thinking, probably computers or something in the 70s, But the thing, different from you, I always had a built-in sense of possibilities that I didn't really, there wasn't much that I just discounted off out of hand, And, this is something I've admitted other places, but I believed in Santa for a very long time. A very long time. And people say, oh, how nice, you wanted to believe. It's like, no, that wasn't it. It was like I could perceive the possibility of it. It's like, yes, I did have to stretch my mind, but I could imagine that such a thing was so. And so, now that I'm strong enough, I can take it. But, I wouldn't have admitted that probably until I was about 50. That
Oh,
I believed in Santa for a very long time. Not until I was 50, but yeah, because I believed in the possibility of it, and so I didn't have to be convinced about tarot. That mechanism was already there for me.
wow. So were you raised in a religious household at all?
No, actually, quite the opposite. Kind of, I wouldn't say atheist, but kind of no. We really, we were. I don't even want to say raised Methodist. We would go to church, on holidays, but there wasn't any God presence in my house. And interestingly, I've got two brothers, and one of them married a Catholic woman, and so he was well, for a little while, he was a practicing Catholic. And my other brother and his wife are raising their family Mormon. And then there's me. So, my family, I guess, enabled us each to find our own kind of thing that fit, So no, I was not raised in a particularly spiritual or religious household at all. Yeah.
So how does religion and spirituality fit in with the work you do at this point?
Well, for me, it's a lot of times I think about things in terms of a Venn diagram, so you've got the two circles and where's the overlap? It's like religion and spirituality do have that little center place where they overlap, but most religions think that they're the only good religion, and that's just so hard to wrap my mind around. So I really appreciate when somebody with any kind of a religious conviction, and I do have a couple of ministers who I see for sessions for tarot. So I really like when people who do have a real specific worldview like that, when they are able or choose to come and get some support and validation, not for their religion, but for their life, through the tarot.
Do you find, like, okay, if you're reading for a person who has a specific religion, and say they're a minister or something like that, you know what their religion is, do you find that you are able to look at the cards as they come up and, in a way, read for them in their spiritual language? Do you find that happens?
Somewhat, just in a very generic way, like we might, if somebody's a Buddhist, there are certain kind of, generic worldviews there. If it's pretty easy to find Christian themes, I think, in the tarot.
Sure.
Although probably a devout Christian would their hair would be standing on end to hear that. But I think the people I most like reading for in terms of having a great conversation is therapists. I really like working with therapists.
Yes, me too.
Yeah, we're all swimming in the same pool there. We're talking about it from an archetypal perspective. We're talking about it in terms of energies. We're talking about it in terms of the different aspects of your personality, and people who either have done some therapy or are therapists are really willing to own their own crap, and not be so blaming this, blaming that. Oh, it's all about the job or the husband or whatever it is. And so you can really have, I find, a very in-depth conversation with somebody who's either a counselor, a therapist, or somebody who's done a good amount of personal work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are my favorites, I would say.
Sure. Yeah. And, I think it is interesting that, sort of the subtext of this conversation is, hey, guess what? Therapists, ministers, police officers, people from all walks of life use the services of tarot readers. And I think don't necessarily realize that. And certainly, Well, and let me ask you this. I mean, it sounds like you do a lot of very serious soul-searching kinds of tarot readings. Do you also do any entertainment? Do you do the corporate parties? Do you do any of that stuff?
I don't do too much corporate. I would. I think Maine's maybe a little different than Florida.
Mm, mm.
Pretty conservative up here, in when it comes to corporate. Their idea of open-minded might be, oh, we do yoga at lunch or something, that sort of thing. Ooh, you know. I did just last night a party, and I really like doing parties, especially if the people kind of go for the format of doing readings in a circle.
Mm.
If people know each other well enough, it's just a great way to have your reality witnessed by other people, to get feedback about what's going on with you. Other people can see things in a different way sometimes than we can about our life. And it was really great. Sometimes when I have a job like that and people are receptive and there's nice interaction, it isn't just me talking for 2 hours. There's just people sharing and reflecting, and then it's like, and then I get paid too, and then it's like, wow, that's so cool, and sometimes it feels like work, but last night it didn't feel like work. It was very nice. So I don't really like to go into the entertainment kind of aspect of tarot because, not because I think has to be so serious, but because for me, I want to stay away from that part of the stereotype,
Sure.
Especially in a fairly conservative state. I want to say socially conservative. We're not really politically conservative up here. If anything, we're probably more on the liberal side. But socially, it's pretty, that New England kind of keep it to yourself and buck up and all of that sort of, party Yankee stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's an interesting question too, is how tarot fits into different regions of the country.
Mm-hmm.
I've lived and worked in Connecticut, the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania, and now Florida. And there are some things that are very similar and some things that really are different depending on region. And that's probably a really important point. So when we talk about your work, you've got a few things going on right now. And the first thing I'd like to ask you about is your book, Tarot Spreads and Layouts. Tell us about your book.
Well, the book's been out for a couple of years. It's gotten a really good response from the tarot community. I'm proud of the content of it. I think, it's not anything, I don't think particularly groundbreaking, but it's eminently usable. I wanted to write something or create something that would be like a manual, that was going to be like a handbook for people. And I think the thing that makes that particular Spreads and Layouts book unique is that it's set up by the Spreads and Layouts are set up in terms of what kind of what question. So not for all kinds of questions. If I have a relationship question, I'm going to want to use this particular method. If I've got a health issue, I might use a particular method. If I've got a choice kind of thing, like should I take job number 1 or should I stay where I am and try to make the best of that and try to, excel where I am, that sort of either or sort of a thing. That kind of a question really isn't, I don't think, particularly well addressed by the Celtic layout, for instance.
Right.
So the Spreads and Layouts book is designed by the kind of query. I can't remember. I think there's maybe 15, 17 different methods in there. The other thing that I'm a big proponent of is that you don't need a lot of cards to get a lot of information. So there isn't a layout in there that has more than 8 cards. I don't really particularly like the 21 card, If somebody wants to do that, that's fine. But for somebody who's learning, or even an intermediate tarot person, it's overkill. You don't need that many cards to get a succinct answer to your question. So, the Spreads and Layouts book that I wrote is very much geared toward simplicity, being clear about what the question is, and using the fewest number of cards to get to that specific response.
Nice. Nice. And I think, tarot spreads and, really how we do our work. When we sit down with a client, how we do it. Do we ask for questions? Do we not ask for questions? Do we do the same spread all the time? Do we do different spreads? Do we do more than one spread? Do we dialogue? There are so many ways to do it. And I really appreciate it when we can find these books like yours that give us some choices about how this can be done. One of the things that irritates me is new students who have been taught that there's only one way to do it. And, it sounds like your book really offers a lot of possibilities and really gives the students some ideas for creativity and ways of making the cards work for them.
Yeah, so not only is the framework of each method there, but then there's also suggestions for how to expand on it. How do I, if I have other questions, how do I build those in? And even the notion that you can do that, is important. It's like I really don't like too many tarot rules.
Right.
My tarot rules are very broad. Like, you should treat your cards with respect. It's like any other tool. You keep your tools in good shape, You don't ask questions that invade the privacy of other people.
Can I interrupt you on that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Hypothetical. Let me give you a hypothetical here.
Yeah.
In the spirit that there's no right or wrong, we all have our own set of what works for us.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to pretend to be the client and give you a hypothetical question.
Okay.
Tell me tell me how you would handle this.
Okay.
My boyfriend broke up with me 2 weeks ago. Is he seeing someone else, and what is he thinking about me right now?
Okay. What is he thinking about me feels okay for me because it's connected to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's related to your experience. Is he dating somebody else might kind of come up.
Mm-hmm.
I would prefer to leave that off to the side and not address that. I would maybe, and clients sometimes do ask questions that to me feel either inappropriate or bad boundaries, or just not a healthy question, like, why do you care? And so I'm always going to want to try to rephrase the question if I can, like staying true to I understand what it is you want to know. You want to know what's going on with him. But, so I might say, have the cards that the person pulls, the question might be, what is it that you need to know about your ex-boyfriend? Or what's important for you to hear about what's going on between the two of you?
Brilliant.
So that puts it on them. It puts it in their realm of control. It isn't too nosy, and it addresses the thing that they really want to know to some degree.
That was brilliant. That was well put. From my perspective, I do a very similar thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is hard. There are those who have the ethics of, we can't talk about anyone except for you. But that's a tough reading, because our whole lives and most of our issues have to do with the people around us.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, we don't want to be invasive, and we want to. But I really liked what you said there as far as helping the person phrase it in a healthier way. It seems like that would help them see it from a healthier perspective.
Yeah, yeah, and if clearly that wasn't their first reaction to it, it's helpful to have somebody else who I'm not invested in what goes on there, so to be able to kind of gently move them to another side of it, and try to look at it a little bit more detached.
Sure.
The question, what's going on with him and his new girlfriend, is totally out of bounds. Like it's there. Then I would say, I'm sorry, I can't help you on that one.
Nice.
Because that's just, I mean, for me, that's none of her business.
Right.
And it isn't about her anymore. So.
Right.
But it's tricky.
So, yeah. So the book is Tarot Spreads and Layouts by Jeanne Fiorini. Available on your website, tarotworks.com. Is that correct?
You can get it on TarotWorks, and it's also on Amazon. People, I invite people, if you have a copy, to feel free to put a review up there.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. It's always interesting to hear what people either like or don't like about it. So I'm pleased with the reviews. For the most part, 4 and 5 stars on the book so far. So
and that's
good.
What I was excitedly interrupting you to say was that I was reading your reviews this afternoon. You got great reviews.
Yeah.
And when the book first came out, you got a mention on the blog of the great Mary K. Greer.
Yes. Well, let's see. Some of that was prompted by a tarot tip, actually. I'm pretty sure, because I did a tarot tip. So the tarot tips are on YouTube. They're free. YouTube has changed their address system over there a couple of times. It used to be Tarot Queen 100 was my channel, but now I think it's just under my name, Jeanne Fiorini, on YouTube.
I find them I go to YouTube and I type in your name, Jeanne Fiorini, and they all come up and they're awesome. So tell us about the tarot tips.
Yeah, so the tarot tips are free. There's probably by now 50 at least different tarot tips. I've been doing them, I want to say, for 2.5 years. I think 2.5 years. And I think that the particular video that Mary saw was one that was sort of fun. I talked about, do you use the tarot as the emergency room? Do you pick up your cards when you are desperate? That, yes, that can be useful. The emergency room is a useful thing, but you don't want to be going there only when there's an emergency. It's such a great tool. And, maybe something's going really well in your life. Maybe you need to think about, how can I use the tarot to augment something that's happening in a positive way for me, rather than, oh my God, what am I going to do about blah, blah, blah. And we go for our cards, and by then we're all in a tizzy and our mind isn't clear and all of that. So, yeah, and I was also very, so I noticed that, I got 45 hits in one day or something, and for me that's a lot in one day. I'm like, wow, people really like that tip. And then it's like Mary sends me something on Facebook. Oh, by the way, Jeanne, you may have seen the effects of the fact that I mentioned you on my blog. I'm like, oh, that's what it was. Of course, but she's always very gracious, and she gave me a very good recommendation. I asked her to read the Spreads and Layouts book before it was published. I wanted to see if I could have her say something on the back, and she did give it a very good recommendation, as something worth reading, and can't beat that.
No, you can't. And again, you came up just a little before I did. You're a little bit older than I am, not much. But how would you say, the effect of Mary K. Greer, when did she first end up on your radar? How much impact would you say she's had on your career?
Seminal.
Okay.
Because her Tarot for Yourself was the first book that I saw somebody using with
Mm-hmm.
just a Rider-Waite, and she did nothing more than read the answers out of the book. And even still, she got reactions from people.
Yeah.
And, we used to kid around about Mary Greer and just like, and then the first time, just like she was this goddess or something, and really, uh, when was that book written? 1988, maybe? I think it was only out 3 or 4 years. So I've got no sense of what the tarot world was like before that because I wasn't in it
Right.
then.
Right.
I started in right around 1990, and I think her book was a couple years old then. So
Interesting. So actually, let's see. I started my business in 93, but I started reading in 86-ish.
all right,
Actually,
so
longer than you have. I didn't know that.
there
Okay.
you go.
There you go. So what was your first tarot book?
Tarot for yourself.
That one,
Yeah. And my first deck was the Aquarian Tarot,
Oh, sure.
which I don't know if I would buy that one now, but it was a good one to learn on. And I also had a Mythic Tarot workbook that I worked with, which I really liked, especially for the personality cards. I thought that was a very good way to get a handle on what's going on there.
Sure.
But Tarot for Yourself was it, and I never, even then, thought that I would be making a living, modest as it is, reading cards, let alone having ever met Mary Greer, let alone having her endorse a book that I wrote. I mean, it's like, what reality is that?
I know, it's so awesome.
It's so weird. It's like how, it's just very weird to me. That's part of the thing in my comedy thing about when I say, hi, my name is Jeanne, I'm a tarot reader, it does sound like a confession at a 12-step meeting. It's like, in what world does that happen? In the
most wonderful world ever.
I guess.
So again, the tarot tips are a series of free videos, instructional videos. How long is each tip?
Well, some of them, especially lately, they've gotten a little bit longer, but I would say ballpark 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's what I've discovered. I've watched a couple of them. I really like them because you can watch them. It's a quick piece of information. You're funny. You're smart. I love them. They're available on YouTube for free. Just go to YouTube, Jeanne Fiorini. There they are. Yep. And now you also have a series of video classes. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, now that was something that, the technology has made it. Well, this is a really good example of how technology is helping our business and countless other businesses do things that we couldn't have done 5 years ago.
Right.
But, so I live in Maine. I've been teaching tarot class for 20 years. And I really do have a very good, compact, kind of 6-week class that I do. Coming mostly from a psychological perspective, but covering all the bases of the tarot system in a basic knowledge-based kind of way. And although I probably still could rustle up some people locally, with the fact that there are so many people wanting to learn tarot, it just seemed to make sense to somehow figure out a way to record them and upload them. So they're not right now downloadable, but what it is there's a series of 8 classes. There's 3 classes on the minors, 3 classes on the majors, 1 personality card class, 1 overview class, so that's 8. And you can buy them separately or you can buy them in what I call the bargain bundle. And those run, they're at least an hour. Some of them are an hour and a half long. So it's just as if you were sitting in my living room taking tarot class from me. It's the distillation of tarot class as it's come to happen in my living room over the last 20 years. They really, they're a very good bargain. They're $21 a piece. You can buy the bargain bundle for $150. But I thought
a special for our people here at the Psychic Cafe?
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking that for this week, if anybody wanted the bargain bundle, we could do it for $120.
Perfect.
It's 10 hours of class. It really is a thorough overview of the whole system. We touch every single card. We talk about elements. We talk about numbers. We talk about the archetypal significance. There's astrological associations, the whole shebang. So yes, so you can find the tarot videos by going to my website, tarotworks.com. And then on the sidebar there, you'll see video tarot classes. So you can just click on that, and that'll take you to the list page. And even on the list page, like let's say, let's find out a little bit more about the personality card class. So you click on that, it'll go to another page. It'll tell you everything that you're going to learn if you were to buy the personality card class.
Perfect.
So there's tons of information there. The special bargain for the Psychic Cafe isn't on the website, so if anybody wants to take advantage of that, they need to email me separately.
Perfect.
And then we'll figure out the billing. But you could have those on your desktop in an hour if you wanted to pay through PayPal. Perfect. What I do is send you the link. The link gets you to where they are uploaded, and the video is available to you indefinitely.
Nice.
Okay, so you could watch it once, you could watch it 25 times, it doesn't really matter.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
I'm very proud of the videos. The information is really good, it's really concise, it's basic, good foundational stuff, and then you take it and use it however you want.
I think that's great, and I really hope that people will take advantage of that offer. It's a really good offer. And, I remember in the 1980s, going to my local New Age bookstore and renting what were those things called? VHS.
Yeah.
VHS, How to Read Tarot.
Wow.
I have no idea who it was. It was some old lady. I mean, I suppose if it was one of us, it would be some old lady.
I know.
Perspective, I was in my 20s. But I'll tell you what, I watched that thing 5 times in one day. And it really spoke to me. So, learning tarot with video with a good teacher like Jeanne makes a lot of sense. So, definitely.
Yeah.
The book, Tarot Spreads and Layouts, the free tarot tips on YouTube, and the video tarot class is available at your website, tarotworks.com. Now, there's another side to you. Not only are you grounded and smart, you're also funny, and you recently started studying stand-up comedy.
Again, in what world? It is so much fun. It's crazy scary. But the thing that I'm finding is that it's like tarot in that you're searching for just the right words. You're looking for just the economy of words that are going to express the thing that you're trying to express in the most direct way.
Perfect.
That's what tarot is, and really that's how I'm finding this process of writing, because we write our own stuff. You have to do your own material.
Right.
So yeah, it's that is something that I sort of in the back of my mind have wanted to do for a long time, but really, it's hard to tell where your confidence comes from. After teaching class and doing presentations for 20 years in tarot, I don't think I ever could have gotten up and tried stand-up if I hadn't had that experience under my belt.
Sure.
I just would have melted into a puddle of embarrassment and just would have and disappeared, you know. But being a tarot teacher and having people, like, I remember, I don't know about you, but the first time I did a tarot class, people got out their pencils and they start, like, oh my God, they're writing down what I'm saying.
Yes.
I know. I'm like, oh, they're listening. Uh-oh, kind of a thing. But then you get used to it. And I think, you know, so that gave me some confidence to get in front of people. But, you know, the first time people laugh at something you say, you know, if there was 70 people in that room and they laughed at something, it is a drug. It's very, I'm finding it very addicting and very fun and very challenging. Yeah.
Terrific. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So, in just a few moments, you and I will say goodbye, and then we're going to play a video of you doing stand-up comedy so people can see that side of you.
Okay, that's
so,
great.
Before we say goodbye, is there anything else that you wanted to share about your work, about tarot, anything we haven't talked about that you wanted to get out there today?
Aside from what we've said, no, I don't think so. So the tarot video classes, the YouTube, you know, and like you, I do Skype readings, I do, you know, telephone readings, whatever, you know,
Sure.
people need or want. I like what you said earlier about new students or even intermediate students of tarot having permission to find their own way.
Right.
I did something with Dax Carlisle in his classroom earlier in the week.
Yes.
And he was talking about new students really feeling resistant to kind of break the rule, you know? Like if a spread has 3 cards, it's like, oh, I can't pull more than 3 cards, you know?
Right.
It's like, no, that's not how, no.
Right.
So really, I guess, to anybody who's listening, who's learning tarot or thinking about learning tarot, you know, it's really a way to find your own way, to find your own way to explore your life, you know, to help your friends with their experiences. It's really, I call it the ongoing science experiment that is tarot, you know, because it never ends. There's always something to learn. There's always something even the most experienced reader can take away from a session. So just to put that out there for anybody who's working with tarot. And sometimes, you know, we all hit bumps where it's like, oh, I'm not really good at this, or oh, this isn't working, or we lose confidence in it. But to me, that's when you need to try something new, maybe. You know, try a new approach.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jeanne, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being in the world, doing what you're doing, and thanks. For spending some time at the Psychic Cafe.
We always have fun.
Soon.
That's great. We always have a good chat.
Yes, we do. And again, the website is tarotworks.com. Make sure you check Jeanne out. And now, let's see Jeanne do some stand-up comedy.
Thanks, Christiana.
I'm 60. You know, how does that happen? I don't know. Help me. It's just such a weird number, 60. It's a number that when I hear it in my head, it's accompanied by that Law and Order sound. Dum dum. 60. Dum dum. Dramatic shit happens when we hear that sound. Dum dum. We'll see how dramatic it is when I'm having the early bird special at Friendly's. Turning 60 is part of the thing that prompted me to try stand-up. It's either this or skydive, jump out of an airplane, celebrate. Figured I'd try the thing that didn't rely on a parachute. You get to a certain age, nobody cares what you do anymore anyway, so it doesn't matter. Best thing about trying comedy at 60 is that there's only 25 years left for humiliation if it goes really bad. So when you start bitching about being 60, somebody invariably says, Consider the alternative.
Yes.
So what, I only get two choices, this or death? If you want me to consider an alternative, how about the one where my knees still bend and my boobs aren't reaching down to help? I love that one. How about the one where I don't need a chip clip to hold my neck together? Dum-dum. It's all very dramatic. So a lot has changed. When I was a kid, my two favorite words were chocolate chip. By the time I went to college, my two favorite words were nickel bag. Those of you from the 70s get that one. So I get to be 40s, rolling rock. Now at 60, my two favorite words are comfort waistband. That's what happens. So I love the Patriots. Watch the football games every weekend with a bunch of women friends. We really get into the games. But I suspect the running commentary might be a little bit different than what you have going at your house. For instance, at my house, there's a lot of talk about whose ass looks mighty fine in the Lady Goose sketches. And whose doesn't. Will Fork. We wonder aloud why Belichick's wife does not dress him better. We finally got one person to stop referring to the team uniform as their outfits. We're learning. I really do understand football, but I'm a little confused about this fantasy football thing. Some of you might have had a fantasy team this year. And if you did, you most likely had Rob Gronkowski on your team. You're probably thinking about touchdowns, interceptions, yardage. And the guy is pretty much like a big old dopey golden retriever who'll do just about anything to catch a ball. Catch the ball, Rob. Bring it back. Bring it back. Good boy. Well, I do have a fantasy team, and Gronkowski is on it, but here's what I'm thinking. I wonder what he looks like naked. I'm sure it's a beautiful thing. See, I get distracted there. What position do I want Rob to play? Where on the field is Rob really going to do his best work? That's what I care about. Because I love dogs. Some of you know this about me. I have a rather unusual profession. I make a living reading tarot cards. When I say that out loud to people for the first time, it always sounds like a confession at a 12-step meeting. Hi, my name is Jeanne. I'm a tarot reader. I know people really don't get tarot. I know somebody's kind of clueless when they come up to me and say, so what exactly is tarot?
Yeah.
When it sounds like carrot rhymes with carrot, I know I'm going to have a problem. Now I know what you're thinking. Don't deny it. Martha, she looks so normal. I am normal. I'm as normal as anybody in this room, I'll guarantee it. But tarot does have its stereotypes. You feel better now, don't you? I know you do. But are you now secretly afraid I'm going to read your mind? You, look out for the red-haired catcher at Hannaford. And you give me $600 and I will remove the curse that has been placed upon you. By me. 2 weeks ago. No. That is not what it's about. The tarot reader's secret handshake requires that we use our powers for good instead of evil. But still, people are always asking me, can you give me the lottery numbers? Honey, do you think if I knew the lottery numbers that I'd be standing here in 25-degree Portland, Maine? No, there'd be two new favorite words, Cabana Boy. Oh, you can relate to that, I guess. Yeah, and people assume too that the information that comes in a reading comes from kind of like those spotlights, like this magical, mystical whole megaphone in the sky, and that the fates have spoken. So if you're the client, you're either good to go or you're totally screwed. Yeah. Tarot does not work on guaranteeing outcomes. If you need a guarantee, buy a toaster. We are a kindly bunch, but even the gentlest reader occasionally is compelled to fuck with a client who's being an idiot. I once had somebody come in and say, "So, how many children do I have?" I was like, "You don't know?" I can't help it. So a couple of weeks ago, I went to a comedy club and I got heckled by the person on stage. Absolutely true. She pointed right at me. "What are you doing in here? Did knitting class get out early?" Oh, it's okay. She had a point. I looked around. Everybody else in there was about 30, dressed in black, reeking of ennui. And I didn't mind so much that she called me out. I did mind in her bit that she seemed to think simply by saying the word vagina once, that we would all laugh, which we did once, but there was so much left on the table there. Come on, there's so much to work with. Yeah. For instance, I recently heard it referred to as the female vagina. Apparently in contrast to the male vagina. Who knew? I couldn't help myself. I went up to her afterwards, put my arm around her in a motherly fashion, and encouraged her to take her vagina ball and run with it. Because it is so much bigger than just that. Honey, this thing is your happy valley. This thing's a tourist trap. Did you know that you could get a lot of cool stuff with one of these? This here's your PowerPoint presentation. Oh, knitter my ass. I still may need to jump out of the airplane, but you guys have been great. I'm Jeanne Fiorini. Thanks a lot.
Wow. So there's Jeanne Fiorini, someone I'm really proud to call a friend and a peer. Her website, tarotworks.com. Next week on the Psychic Cafe, we'll have Barbara Graver of the New Age Review. And I've got a few things coming up this week that I want to remind you of. Monday night, that's tomorrow night, 7 o'clock Eastern, Global Tarot Circle. This is a free webinar. It's a time for anyone with an interest in tarot, whether you're brand new, intermediate, professional reader, anyone. We come together, we read for each other, we talk about the cards, we teach each other, we learn some new techniques. That's tomorrow night, Monday at 7 p.m. On Wednesday, also at 7, we will have a free webinar, Magic with Symbols and Images. You can go to my website, tarotbychristiana.com, to follow the links to do either of these free webinars. Again, Tarot Circle Monday night, Magic with Images and Symbols on Wednesday night. I also want to remind you about my 2 books, both available on my website or on Amazon. Fortune Stellar, which is a book for professional readers, and Tarot Tour Guide, a book for anyone with an interest in tarot. And of course, I am available for readings by phone and Skype. Again, tarotbychristiana.com. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thanks to Jeanne Fiorini. And we will be back here next week at the Psychic Cafe with Barbara Graver.
Remember